Have you ever stood at the threshold of a moment so profound that it shattered every belief you carried about what animals feel, remember, or forgive? Have you ever witnessed a rescue so extraordinary that it redefined the very meaning of compassion? Deep in the jungles of Borneo, where emerald canopies stretch endlessly toward mist-shrouded horizons, a man's desperate mission to liberate one tortured soul from captivity would awaken not just a creature long forgotten by freedom, but the ancient bond that unites humans and the wild in ways science still struggles to explain. What unfolded here was more than a dramatic wildlife rescue, more than an emotional true story. It was a revelation, a living proof that survival, love, and memory flow through all creation like one eternal heartbeat. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. And yet, amid cruelty, compassion was about to rise like dawn breaking through the darkness. In the heart of Malaysian Borneo's Sarawak region lies one of Earth's last untouched frontiers, a cathedral of life where colossal dipterocarp trees tower skyward like living monuments to eternity. Their crowns form a canopy so dense that sunlight filters through in trembling shafts of emerald light, illuminating a forest floor alive with whispers of centuries past. Decomposing leaves perfume the air with the rich scent of renewal, feeding an ecosystem that has pulsed in unbroken rhythm for millennia. Crystal rivers weave through valleys cloaked in perpetual mist, their gentle voices mingling with the haunting cries of hornbills and the distant thunder of orangutans swinging like shadows across the treetops. Massive buttress roots rise like natural fortresses, their curves sheltering a kingdom of life both fierce and fragile, while orchids bloom in impossible colors that seem painted by heaven itself. And yet, woven into this paradise are shadows. Dark hands have reached into this sacred place, constructing clandestine prisons where the most vulnerable are stolen, caged, and broken for profit. It is here, hidden in camouflage, that the cries of the wild are silenced. And yet, it is also here that destiny chose to write a miracle. The creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. On this ground of pain and hope, creation itself was waiting for someone brave enough to answer its call. At the center of this unfolding story stood Dr. James Lim, a man carved by 15 years on the battlefront against animal trafficking, just under 6 feet tall, with scarred hands that carried both pain and pride, and eyes that reflected the weight of every life he had saved and everyone he had lost. Dr. Lim was more than a veterinarian. He was a guardian of souls. His converted Land Rover, equipped as a mobile clinic, had become both ambulance and sanctuary, rescuing everything from wounded orangutans to poisoned sun bears. His reputation wasn't built on medicine alone. It was born of something deeper. Unlike many who treated only bodies, he understood that healing required touching the spirit of the animal, restoring not just broken bones, but broken trust. Hazy had whispered calm into trembling hearts, stood patient before wild eyes filled with fear, and offered a kind of love that animals, though betrayed by man, somehow always recognized. And now, his path was about to cross with a prisoner who had been waiting for 8 long years. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. That prisoner's name was Bayou, a 12-year-old orangutan whose very name meant wind in Malay. But for nearly a decade, Bayou had not felt the kiss of wind upon his face. His childhood had been stolen when poachers killed his mother before his eyes and dragged him into captivity. His world had shrunk to a concrete box barely large enough to stand in. Rusted bars and a corrugated roof turned the forest sun into a forgotten shadow. His fur, once glowing russet beneath the sun, had dulled and thinned from malnutrition. His dark eyes, vast pools of intelligence, reflected a grief so deep it seemed bottomless. Yet, even here, in the depths of cruelty, something unbroken flickered. A spark of resilience, a whisper of wild memory, a silent prayer that one day freedom would return. And freedom was coming. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. That Thursday morning broke gently over Sowak, the rainforest stirring awake with golden light cascading through emerald veils of leaves. Dr. Lim's Land Rover rumbled along dirt tracks, carved through time, carrying with it not just medical supplies, but also hope. For him, these morning patrols were ritual, moments of prayer, patience, and silent communion with the land he fought for. He guided the wheel with hands that knew the weight of both scalpel and scripture, his eyes scanning for signs of suffering or crime hidden in the green vastness. The forest spoke to him in familiar voices, the soft rush of rivers, the shrill song of cicadas, the distant whoop of a gibbon. But this day, the forest also whispered warning. Somewhere deeper within, another life stirred. Bayou, awakening once again to the same routine of despair. His gaze fixed on a narrow beam of sunlight slicing through a crack in the roof above him. That golden shaft was his only link to the world beyond bars, his only proof that the forest still existed somewhere, out there. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Fate often announces itself in whispers before it crashes like thunder. Dr. Lim, following instinct, spotted fresh tire tracks cutting across a section of jungle no legal vehicle had reason to enter. The earth was soft with last night's rain, and the imprints were fresh, no more than a day old. His pulse quickened. Illegal activity. His vehicle slowed as he guided it into denser foliage, following the trail like a hunter tracking truth. Around him, the forest grew unnaturally silent, as if holding its breath. Soon, the camouflage of undergrowth gave way to signs no conservationist could mistake. Deliberately cleared patches of land, unnatural quiet, and then sounds. Not the jubilant calls of the wild, but low, broken echoes of pain. Caged voices. His heart sank. Somewhere ahead, behind those walls, an animal was waiting. Somewhere ahead, Bayou sat with his face lifted to a single shaft of light, never imagining that this morning his silent prayer was being answered. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. The convergence was inevitable now. One man carrying scars of battles fought for compassion. One orangutan carrying scars of battles endured in chains. And in the space between them, the possibility of something no one could predict. A bond that would prove animal miracles are not fantasy, but truth. A connection that would leave experts speechless, reveal gratitude beyond science, and remind the world that the line between human and animal is thinner than we dare believe. Their meeting was written not in chance, but in destiny. The wolf will live with the lamb, and a little child will lead them. And so, on that humid morning, as mist curled like incense through the forest, the story: defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Through gaps in the camouflage netting, the nightmare grew clearer. Rows of concrete cells, deliberately cramped, suffocating in size and spirit, stretched out like a scar carved into the living heart of the jungle. The structures betrayed every principle of conservation and dignity. Their design focused solely on minimizing cost and maximizing exploitation. In the central cage, the cries had reached their crescendo. And there he was, Bayou, a magnificent male orangutan, his massive body grotesquely folded into a cell no larger than 8 by 6 feet. The bars forced him into permanent semi-crouch, muscles once sculpted for swinging through cathedral forests now trembling from disuse and pain. His russet fur, once radiant under the canopy's light, lay matted, dulled, and thinned by malnutrition. His dark, intelligent eyes, windows into a soul made for freedom, were hollowed by years of captivity. Yet in those eyes still lingered a flicker, faint but unextinguished. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Bayou had not surrendered his spirit entirely. Amid the filth of his cell, Dr. Lim noticed signs of dignity. Scraps of vegetation, arranged into careful, almost artistic patterns. Small fragments of order, crafted by a mind refusing to drown in chaos. His prison was lined with stained concrete, floors, rusted bars scarred with the marks of desperate escape attempts, and a corrugated roof that turned the cell into a furnace under Borneo's heat. A water container, slimy with algae, stood as his only source of life. Around Bayou's cell, others languished. Sun bears pacing in endless circles, clouded leopards crouched in silent despair, exotic birds whose once brilliant plumage now dulled beneath neglect. Each one a story of suffering, each one an indictment against humanity's darkest impulses. The righteous man regards the life of his animal, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Isolation was the cruelest weapon of all. Orangutans, though solitary in the wild, still share bonds of recognition, communication, and social memory. 8 years of solitary confinement had stripped Bayou of every connection to his kind, leaving wounds deeper than chains could inflict. As Dr. Lim stood frozen, the cries pierced him, not as a veterinarian, but as a human being. His training urged caution, his instincts screamed danger, but his heart could not look away. Bayou's hollow eyes locked onto his, and in that gaze Dr. Lim saw not just an orangutan, but the mirror of human suffering, a reflection of every injustice he had sworn to fight. His hands trembled, not from fear of traffickers, but from the unbearable truth. Every second he hesitated was another second of torment for creatures already stripped of too much. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Logic told him the odds were impossible. He was one man, unarmed, with only medical tools against an operation likely backed by organized criminals. The facility's careful camouflage, its location deep within the forest, its silence in daylight, all pointed to a system designed with precision and ruthlessness. Intervention would be dangerous, perhaps suicidal. His communication devices might fail under the jungle's canopy. Backup could take hours, or never arrive at all. But in that moment, Dr. Lim crossed a boundary. He was no longer a professional weighing risks. He was a man compelled by the ancient call of compassion. Bayou's suffering reached into him like scripture, demanding action beyond reason. Greater love has no one than this: to lay down one's life for one's friends. With steady breath, Dr. Lim shifted from observer to liberator. He studied the facility like a battlefield, noting the patterns. No guards in sight, likely. Nocturnal operations. His years of rescue had taught him that sometimes protocols chained more tightly than cages. He approached Bayou's prison with the same patience he had offered countless wounded souls before. Predictably, Bayou recoiled, pressing his frame into the farthest corner. 8 years of betrayal had taught him to see every human as a predator. But Dr. Lim was not like the others. He came without force, without demand, speaking softly, letting his body radiate calm. He extended his hand, not as command, but as offering. Minutes passed. Then, with the gravity of a sacrament, Bayou lifted one long finger and touched him. A fragile bridge across 8 years of darkness. A gesture so small, yet so immense it carved itself into eternity. The wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. It was the first voluntary human contact Bayou had given in nearly a decade. Dr. Lim's tools worked silently at the rusted lock, his free hand still steady, near Bayou's, as if anchoring hope in that fragile connection. When the lock gave way with a muted click, the air itself seemed to pause. The door creaked open, and the impossible happened. Bayou did not bolt. He did not lash out. He stepped forward, trembling, each movement weighed down by years of weakness and fear. And then, he turned. His eyes, vast and deep, met Dr. Lim's, and within them burned something beyond recognition. It was not just trust. It was gratitude. Unmistakable. Irrefutable. A thank you carried not in words, but in the language of souls. In that moment, the jungle bore witness to a miracle. A dramatic wildlife rescue that defied every prediction. A touching animal story that would echo across time. The bond between rescuer and rescued was no longer theory, no longer debated by experts. It was alive, standing in the humid air of Borneo, reminding the world that animals do not forget kindness, that humanity is measured by how it treats its most vulnerable. The intelligent ape's dark eyes locked onto his rescuer's face with an intensity that spoke of profound understanding. Dr. Lim immediately contacted the Sarawak Wildlife Authority on his satellite device, reporting the illegal facility and requesting urgent backup. His tone carried the urgency of a man who knew how swiftly criminal networks retaliated when exposed. Within 30 minutes, a helicopter rescue unit was airborne, equipped for wildlife recovery and law enforcement action. But just as Dr. Lim prepared to guide Bayou to the extraction point, something extraordinary unfolded. Instead of fleeing into the forest canopy, Bayou deliberately stayed near Dr. Lim, displaying protective behaviors usually reserved for family. The traumatized orangutan had formed a bond in minutes that most experts believed impossible. As the thumping rotors shook the jungle canopy, Bayou's reaction defied every prediction. He did not retreat in fear. He spread his massive arms wide, stepping between Dr. Lim and the incoming helicopter, a living shield. Rescue teams expected panic or aggression. Instead, Bayou gently grasped Dr. Lim's arm, refusing to be separated, his eyes locked with unshakable trust. Standard wildlife protocols collapsed in the face of something science could not explain. The helicopter team adapted quickly, allowing Bayou to remain close to his rescuer during extraction. As the helicopter lifted off and law enforcement secured the site, Bayou remained calm, his focus entirely fixed on Dr. Lim. But what happened next would rewrite the very books of primate rehabilitation. Unlike most rescued orangutans, Bayou did not require long isolation or slow reintroduction. He thrived in Dr. Lim's presence, eating, resting, even undergoing therapy only when his rescuer was nearby. Yet, at the same time, his wild instincts returned faster than anyone dared hope. When the day of release finally came, Bayou once again stunned the scientific community. Instead of vanishing into the canopy, he chose a territory within sight of Dr. Lim's research station. For the first time ever, a fully wild orangutan voluntarily kept close to a human being, not out of dependence, but choice. 5 years later, Bayou still thrives in Borneo's ancient forest. He rules his territory with strength and dignity, but still visits Dr. Lim at the forest's edge. Their bond unbroken, their story has sparked international research into animal gratitude, attachment, and emotional intelligence. It proved a truth too often overlooked. Rescue is not just about breaking chains. It is about recognizing the vast, untold emotional lives of the creatures who share our planet. In Borneo, where jungle meets heart, freedom and friendship became one. Up next, you've got 2 more incredible stories waiting on your screen. If this one touched you, don't miss them. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload from us. And so, Bayou's story became more than a rescue. It became a revelation. In his dark eyes, humanity saw a mirror of its own soul. The longing for trust, the ache of pain, and the miracle of love reborn. Dr. Lim had not only freed a body bound by chains, he had unlocked a heart still capable of loyalty, gratitude, and hope. 5 years on, every time Bayou steps from the jungle shadows to greet his rescuer, it is as if the forest itself is whispering a sacred truth. That love knows no species, that compassion builds bridges stronger than fear, and that sometimes the most broken creatures teach us what it truly means to be whole. Their bond reminds us that every rescue, every act of kindness, carries the power to echo across generations. Because in the end, it wasn't just Bayou who was saved. Dr. Lim was too. And through their story, perhaps, so are we.